Today we got a MK7 Golf R, which is kind of nice. These are rare, 4-wheel drive if you didn't know, and turbo, so kind of nice. This has adaptive suspension too, so instead of doing like a coilover kit, we wanted to do what we're doing today, which is a 25mm H&R spring set. So we already got it on lift. It's pretty simple. If you've ever done springs before in the past, there's not much to it. You just need a decent spring kit or a coilover removal kit. We got our springs here. These new Johnnies, which is cool. It comes with a backstop or bump stop. And we're gonna reuse the shield and most of the stuff that already came with the car. These cars don't need a lot, so get yourself a good stool because you're gonna be here a while. 17mm for the wheels. It would help if you had some sort of power tool so you can get some of these bolts off, because even though this is a new car-ish car, they do get stuck sometimes. This is also a good time to check your brakes, which you're getting close. So the only thing we're really taking apart today is this shock system, which is actually inserted into your knuckle, which is this portion here. So for the most part, it looks like all we need to do is disconnect the bolts from the top, and what I'm gonna do right now is just kind of pre-lube everything. If you've ever done a Honda, you know that these don't come apart very easily, but it's always nice to pre-soak some stuff. It looks like there's a 17mm bolt in the back. It's just like a pinch style that just goes together like this. So it's a 19mm here. It looks like a 19mm or some sort of 12 point here. But be careful. This is the electronics for that adaptive suspension I was telling you about. It's energized. Usually it's like an electric charge that goes through here and makes the shock dampening like stiffer in sport mode, race mode, etc. So when you're in that, this actuator energizes this shock and makes the spring rate different. So just be careful when you're pulling this stuff apart that you don't damage any of these wires, because this is a lot more expensive than the springs that we're putting in. Then we'll take off the nut here for the brake line, the caliper itself. We could probably leave the rotor and everything else attached. And then you got a 19mm here, I believe, for the tie rod arm, and then a sway bar in link. So pretty straightforward. If you can't get your gun in there, sometimes you can at least crack it on this side. You want to come over here. There's just a regular captured nut right here. It's got like a nylon washer on it, so it's kind of on there. Shoot. Sometimes you got to crack them anyway, but keep ratcheting wrench will save your life too. Just keep going until it starts spinning like that on the other side. Just like that. Before you put bolts back, if you see this kind of stuff, clean them up. So on these guys, all I usually do is take a little pick and either push down on it if I can, or I'll put it in there like this so I don't break stuff. Okay, so I'm probably not going to show you the other one on camera, but if you can get your pick under here and lift up like that, it'll pop right off. If you try it from the top, sometimes you can get them in here like this too and pop it up, but a lot of times these tabs break because this doesn't really work very well and you can't really get to it from where I'm at. So I usually just go from the bottom and go boop like that and it'll pop right off. I don't like doing that. Oh, you know what? Be smarter than the tool. All right, if you can't get that clip off, just take the bolt out that holds it in. So what I'm going to do instead, I'll show you when it's out, is pull the whole sensor out with the plug, because getting the plug out is a pain in the butt. There's a little bolt that sits down this way, and then that connector, which I was trying to get to, was being a pain. Technically all you're supposed to do is have to push this little tab down, but these things are really hot. They get really hot, so they end up getting brittle. So this is like what I was saying, you just pull back on this tab right here, and then this thing should just pop right out. Yeah, like that. but you can't get to it because it's like this. So just take the bolt out and then you can get to it pretty easy. We got a little tab here. Just twists right off. It's got a little pop in there. Make sure this gets put out of the way so you don't damage the connector. And don't forget to plug it back in later. Here's the other connector for the shock I was telling you about. And then we got this bracket. You can either take off this 10mm bolt, which I'm gonna do, or you can take out this portion here with a screwdriver. You just pop this tab up and the line comes out, but I'm gonna take the bracket off anyway. So this is magnetic. Do not put it on anything magnetic. All right, 10mm. Extendo. If you don't want to use a parts tray, just put your bolts back in there. I do that sometimes, so that way I don't lose stuff. There's also something else you need to look at going on in here, Colby. This is actually a level adjustment, so I'm going to say that that's a part of the suspension too, but it's connected to this bracket, which is connected to the car, which is connected to the bottom of the control arm. So if you decide to take all this off and then you don't release the connector here, it could either damage it or you'll be fighting yourself trying to get this shock back out later on. So since I just saw it, I'm gonna go ahead and take it apart now. There's a tab, but literally I can't even press the tab down. So I'm using a pick on one end, like I told you guys before, to put it inside the little lever to pull it back. And then I'm actually using a screwdriver on the bottom to pop it up and pry it up, so that way we don't break this again. So this one is about the same as the other, but there's no way to get to the bottom of that. All right, and then you're gonna use that same screwdriver you had. I'm gonna go from the bottom, but these should just be pressure fit little dealios. Maybe I'll need a bigger screwdriver, who knows, we'll see. They'll definitely go on easier than they come off, and they're made of plastic too. I guess I probably could have used one of these guys and popped it off like that. If you got a body tool and you don't feel comfortable using a screwdriver, just go like that and pop it off the same way. I just did the bottom because this is connected to the body and this is connected to the actual lower control arm, which is that guy. So technically I shouldn't have to touch this at all anymore. So then we have a sway bar link that goes around here, connects to the sway bar itself, and it links the car to the shock, which is why it's called a link. So these like to spin, so I always pre-lube them too. They're not actually, there's just a nut here and a place to put in like an Allen key. So if you hit it really hard, sometimes they'll spin, sometimes they just come right on. So I always like to lube them a little bit. Sorry, I just blew you. Pretty sure I have impact rated extended sockets that I bought, but this is on my tool tray, so I'm gonna use it. Yeah, so if you hit it with an impact gun, it'll normally just pop off just like that. If you don't have an impact gun, there is an Allen key in here. Oh, that's really small. Be careful with that one, because that'll strip. Is that an Allen? Or is that a 12 point? Yeah, that'll strip. I was able to get, it's probably a 4mm, that's a 3/16, but if you have a 4mm Allen, it should go in there, and then you just put a 17 or 18 wrench on it. That sway bar nut is off. I'm gonna leave it in there for now. Since the shock is drooped, it's not really gonna want to come out like it is. You just pull that out. You can throw the nut back on it so you don't get, make sure you clean that off, but so you don't get confused. The next one we're gonna go after is this guy. Yeah, so we're 21 on the bottom. Dyslexic. So let's see. I might be able to crack it. Otherwise, I'm just gonna hit it with the gun. But yeah, that's only on there like 70 or something, maybe. It's kind of nice when everything's not all rusted shut. So with this stuff, there's two ways to do it. You can use the ball joint removal tool. I don't really like using it because then it'll end up scarring this guy up. So what you can do at your own risk, you can turn the nut backwards like that and run it down until it's flat. Just like this. So if you have enough room, do that. Sometimes people do this and it'll loosen it up because this is all pressure mounted. So if you do it right and it's flat, again, at your own risk, but if you flatten that screw out, it doesn't bang the threads up, it doesn't mess the bolt up, and then you can pop it out and reuse it. So this guy, when you see stuff like this, that's red Loctite or rust, one of the two. I think that's going to be red Loctite. I'll look in when we're done, but you got to make sure you clean that off or it's going to fight you going back in. The reason why I took those two off is so that way I can move this wherever I want now. You know, you could have a friend go in there and turn stuff, but if you take those two out of the way, now you can move this thing wherever you want. We might get lucky and not have to take this bottom bolt off, so that way I don't have to take the whole steering knuckle off, but I usually start here. Sometimes it works out. There's two nuts on the back here. These are usually like at least 80 foot-pounds, 90 foot-pounds, and I think this is going to be like a 21 again. Let me look. Yeah, so these guys are 21s. I also like to do this so that way I can get my gun back here, because again, they're on there pretty tight, and I don't want to use hand tools if I don't have to. Don't go crazy. 2 Ugga Duggas should do it. And then there's one on the bottom. It's 1 bolt. If it's fighting you, just lift up on the damn thing. But these are the caliper bracket bolts. Hopefully you've done a brake job before you want to tackle this. A lot of times, if you get lucky, you can just pop these guys off. But let's see. A little light pressure, nothing crazy. Pop it out. Maybe one here. And, alright, fine. I'm just going to take the dang caliper apart then, which is not what I wanted to do, but whatever. Maybe yours will come off. I'd start there. You're going to have to take those bolts off anyway. This is a 13 mil, 17 mil on the back just to keep this thing from spinning around like you just saw. 13 mil on the rear. It'll pop right out just like that. I usually put NICs on there. This one looks like it has blue Loctite. Oh, it's a 17 or an 18. Weird. Must be an 18. But these guys pinch together and then they rotate. So let's see what we got now. Yeah, that was on there pretty good. Man, this would be a great time to order pads actually. These are fucking low.
Yeah, they look,
language, they're very low.
They look pretty turfed.
And then there goes the bracket like I wanted.
That's probably why I feel that slip, huh?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at these, this is almost metal to metal here, and you don't have anything really left, so you probably are going to be getting pads today, because that's very, very light. You're almost metal to metal right here, actually. Yeah, you're getting pads today. But it's not like this is a brake job thing, but when you're in here, look at your stuff. If you got wear on your rotors or you need a new set of brake pads, you don't want to take this thing apart again. You're already here. These have a pretty decent sized groove in them, and he's been talking about braking performance issues, so that would help. So I'm probably going to be putting a set of pads and rotors on this thing. Alright, so we're going to bungee up this caliper. The biggest thing you don't want to do is let this thing hang by itself. So just find a spot that, I mean, we got plenty of room for activity here, so just find a spot that's not in the way to hang your rotor up. I usually like to hang it from the chassis, which is kind of like there's a spot there and a spot there, and then after I'm done, I like to make sure that there's slack in the cord, but I mean, you can probably just sit it on the ground. The only thing I'm thinking we're going to end up doing is taking this axle nut off. But we'll see. Let me get the bolts on top undone and see how far down it comes, and then you can kind of see. These are like on there real loose too. So yeah, you can do most of this with hand tools. You know, this is probably 30 foot-pounds or 1 Ugga Dugga. What I'm doing right now is kind of loosening them so that way there's still a few threads in here, because it'll help lower it without allowing it to drop. Like I said, if you took care of everything like with your lines and all that, it won't really matter too much. But I'm basically going until there's like 1 or 2 threads left, and then these are still in here, right? So then you just loosen this and it'll start to drop. The actual shock will start to drop. I always do the one that's hardest to get to first because it's a pain in the butt to hold a suspension up with one hand and ratchet from the top with another. So I'll take this one all the way out probably and leave one in there. So that's 2 out. And then what I like to do is sit down on my handy dandy stool, leave this one exposed. Again, if you're working by yourself, it's going to be a lot easier to hold it when it's right in front of you. You can put a jack down here, but I don't know if I'm going to want one or not. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the axle nut off, pop the axle out, and then if I really have to, I'm probably just going to take the lower ball joints off because we're not lowering it enough to really change the alignment, even though we will be doing that later. This is a 15/16 12 point. I don't know what that converts to with metric. That's what I had. But it fits on there perfect. So I'm going to use that guy. These are on there pretty tight. So you're going to need a pretty decent gun to take it off. It's also red Loctited in. Since I'm going to be ordering rotors and all that stuff, I'm probably going to get them a new axle bolt too, because these are Tortillo bolts. This guy is rusty also, so we're going to put in a little splooge here so we can break the seal. Put our nut back in there. Please don't come for me, everybody has their way of doing it. I give her a little taparooski to break the seal, back the nut back off. This is why you use a drip pan, so you don't get it all over your parents' driveway, or all over your shop that you just cleaned this morning. There's a bolt in here for the rotor, so as long as you don't take that out, there's a little nut. As long as you don't take that out, the rotor's not going to come out. If you don't have this, then your rotor's going to fall off. So. There it goes. Ugh. Well, here comes the everything was coming apart so easily. Last famous words part. We're taking off these bottoms now too. This is a 16 mil for your bottoms. Your bottom, there's 3 bolts on the bottom of this. I'll show you when I get this apart, but there's 3 bolts on the bottom for the bottom ball joint. 1, 2, and 3. You can also take off. Is there a nut here? Yeah, there's a nut here, but I don't really want to mess with the bottom ball joint because again, I don't want to ruin any boots. He doesn't need ball joints right now, so try to find the easiest way to get to them, which is just taking off the 3 bolts, and then we'll pop it out. 1, 3 nuts. There's 2. There's 3. There's a little pry guy. See how it just moves easily now that these aren't attached to anything. So what this is going to allow you to do is move this back and forth and out. But I think really the only reason why I'm even doing this is because my axle isn't coming out really easily. I might not have to do this on the other side, but Well, if this axle would actually pop out like it's designed to do, I could pull this whole thing forward and just pop the thing apart. But what I'm using now is a dowel. There's this flat spot in beside the axle. I'm trying to get it to back up a little bit. There it goes. See how much the suspension dropped just from that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, we wouldn't have to do all of that, but these splines, when you put this back together, put some hard grease, but it's all kind of anodized right here, or what's it called, oxidation or whatever. Basically, when aluminum and cast metal get together, they rust form. So that's why I was putting lube right here and in here. So when I put this back together, I'm going to clean this all up, put a little grease there and on the splines, so that way the next person, me, that's in here, won't have to do that again. But now the whole thing can come out as a unit, because sometimes you got to do that. This is just bearing grease. I'll take some of that. This is fully extended, so I'll just put some of that right there in the little channel. Let's see here. So that's a 7mm nut. That's actually a O2 sensor tool.
Compress?
Yeah. It's working. Cool. Alright, so tension off. They sell good tools for this kind of stuff. Obviously, I didn't buy it. Hold that down for me, Georgie. This is unattached now, right? Let me give it some more pressure.
Nah, you scary ass, George.
You are hella scary,
Hey,
George.
you're back there.
You've been doing this for how long? Alright,
Long enough.
I'll show you what contraption I made to get this out. So that way you don't have to use like a freaking rag and a whatever that you always see.
A vice grip.
Yeah, and a vice grip. Believe me, I've done it. But again, we're trying to save this shock. You're going to take that bolt out. This is the bushing. Inspect your bushing. Make sure that the rubber and all that. Sometimes these go out. There's a bearing in here that allows the shock to move back and forth. This is an isolator. It's weird. Oh, I'm an idiot. It was like that. So that locks into itself and keeps it from moving. And there's your bearing that allows the shock to move back and forth. So it can only really attach one way. You want to make sure you have that right, the orientation right, and don't screw it up like I just did, because when you put it all back together, it needs to come back together like that so it sits in the spring correctly. So you have this, your nut. H&R provided another bump stop. So that was nice. And then here's your actual shock. There's a small isolator on the bottom that locks in. And then you lock your spring into that. And then there's this, if I can get it out. This is just like a dust shield. It also says in the instructions, yes, I read the instructions, that you need to swap this back over so that way it doesn't void your warranty. In order to get this bolt apart, I just made a tool. I didn't have a 21mm, which is what this nut is right here. I didn't have a 21mm to keep that nut from spinning on here. I didn't want to be the way I can be sometimes and use like a rag and a vice grip or any of that, because you don't want to really damage this stuff. So what I made, because it's not really under that much pressure, I took a 1/4 inch with a 3-inch, 4 inches extension. This is a 21mm for an O2 sensor. Your O2 sensor wire goes through here. Stuck it through there. I found out it's a 7mm, so I just put a 7mm socket on there like that, and then I basically just stuck it in the top, put the bolt on it, used a 3/4 inch pair of channel lock or adjustable wrench, it'll pop right off. And then you can just screw it off with your hands. So yeah, it might be janky, but I didn't have to go to the store today. So that's kind of what I was trying to avoid. So if you don't have it, make it. Spring goes in. We never even removed the isolator. Spring goes in. I just put the shield on to keep it so I don't have to fight it later. It locks into place if you have the right ones. This locks into this, that locks into that. So pretty simple. New bump stop, don't forget that. That goes in, and it just seats in the bottom. We're still going to use the top bushing. So sometimes, since you're not going dummy dumped, you can actually just put these back together, but we're gonna have to recompress this. So you'll know it's upside down. I came in from this way and didn't see this sticker, but this is the front of the shock. Your logo needs to be up, straight up and down. Even if the spring is exactly the same, which I don't know yet until I put this thing back together, I'm still not gonna put the spring upside down because that just looks janky. Remember, keyway. Make sure it's straight. That. Just making sure that bottom part is on there. And then right now I'm just doing it by hand. So I'll go until it stops. This wasn't even really that tight at all. Like I almost was able to do it by hand. This thing still spins freely. Alright, so we ended up having to put rotors on this thing. We're going to do a little something different though, because these guys are turfed. So when I was looking for a new supply, I ended up getting these cross-drilled ones. Before you start with this stuff, there is a set screw right here. And if you see all this oxidation and rust or whatever, that means it's probably in here too. So this thing is either going to come out easy or it's going to be stripped. So I try to give it a fighting chance. T30, a little bit of something too on this guy. And then I've always kind of wanted to shock it. So I'll take it and I'll bang it on there like that. And then this is one of those times where impact will help, but it could also really hurt. So just hit it like that. I was pushing down on it. Also, it came right out. It was actually, yeah, you can see where the oxidization is. Is that a word? Oxidization. We'll end up putting some anti-seize on there later. There it goes. So what happens is these two mating surfaces get rusted. So what I usually do is clean all this up and put a little anti-seize right here, so that way when whoever's in here, me, the next time, these things will just pop right off. Got some new ones, some new Johnnies. These are cool. These aren't Brembos, these are Zimmermanns. I've ran this on most of my Volkswagens. These are vented, so that way we'll hopefully not have to deal with warping and all that, but it just helps with the stopping. I'm putting semi-metallic pads on it too instead of ceramic, because this guy likes to go to the mountains. I'm gonna probably end up putting these on last when I put the caliper on. I just wanted to kind of show you where we're at, because now I got to clean that up, get the shock back in there, get the new suspension back in there. It kind of looks like a mess, but it's probably 30 minutes, 40 minutes away from being damn near done. So, all right, so these two guys go together, and they're kind of a pain to get back out. So, I am going to use a little bit of anti-seize in here. There's a tab here, like it says it's in there. So, I took both of these apart on the passenger side. The solenoid goes towards the front. On the driver's side, I believe it goes towards the rear. But they go in like this. I might need to use a little bit of persuasion power, but sometimes they just go right back together. Alright, so when this lip sits in flush here, I don't know if you can see that right there, but I'm just tapping around the edge until the shock starts to come through, and then it stops right there. You put your bolt through. And hopefully, there it goes. Nice. You can use a wire brush. These are a lot easier. Sometimes they get away from you. Just throw it on a drill. You can get these Harbor Freight. If you go in the direction of the drill, it usually will help you a lot. Don't stay in one spot too long though. All you're trying to do really is knock down all that rust. But man, when you put NECs right here, it's night and day. That thing just pops right off every time. Alright, if you're doing this by yourself, which technically I am right now, sometimes I like to sit on the ground and do it. Because one thing you have to do first, don't forget about your sway bar link. When I took this thing off, the sway bar end link right here attaches on this side of the shock. So if I move this out of the way like that and put this back in, now I can't get this back in. So you want to remember where this was. A lot of your cars will have one opposite of each other. So that goes like that. And then another thing we wanted to do is put a little bit of grease on these splines right here so they don't get stuck in this hub like they did. This one wasn't as bad, but there's like grime and all that you want to kind of move out of here. Alright. I like to tighten these down when the car's on the ground so that way I can get an actual torque on them. But for now, what I'm doing is tightening this up so that way I can tighten the bottom bolts and get this stupid axle in. The goal now is to get the axle lined up inside the back of the head. Now that I'm not holding up all three things at the same time, it's going to be a lot easier, hopefully. Push down on your lower control arm and swing the whole contraption inward. But you got to have the axle lined up first, or it won't go in. There it goes. Alright, so sometimes you need to bang them a little bit, but I like to hold stuff down with my knee. So I was able to get the stupid axle in. I'm going to hold it in by using its old bolt. I still have to put red Loctite on it. But in order to get, I just pulled the axle down, or the red Loctite. What do you call it? The lower control arm down. Now the three bolts line up again. So that's probably my suggestion, since we don't have studs. Just get the bolts on the top, pretty like hand tight. It'll give you enough room to move with everything down here if you don't have someone holding it for you. I'm just putting the three nuts on the bottom. We'll torque it all down. I'm not going to show you guys that because I want you to look up torque specs. 16 mil. 2 Ugga-Duggas for now. By the way, is it an M12? It doesn't have tape all over it, so it doesn't shut off on you all the time. Alright, bottoms are done. Remember what I was telling you. This guy may look like it goes from this side, but it actually came from that side. So make sure you're paying attention. Because you can get it wrong. Ask me how I know. I might have to lift this guy up a little bit, the shock up at the end to attach that, because it's too far down right now. But what I will do while I still have it in this position is put like this kind of stuff on. I'll do like the tie rod, the end link for that. I'm just gonna tighten everything down once I get it, but I'm gonna mock up all this stuff right now. That'll be for later. This is suspension, wheel speed sensor, and then one of these is the sensor for the brake pad, that lining. So we'll put the correct brake pad on this side. There's going to be one pad for the front, one pad for the rear that have a line sticking out of it, and that's for this. And that's your wear sensor to make sure your car knows when your brakes are low. If you don't put this back on, it's always going to say on your dash to replace your brakes. All right, so we got the axles in. This is not tight yet. I'm going to tighten this when I put the wheel on. I'll show you how to do that at the end because we got to tighten that. I'm probably going to end up sending it home, and then we're going to come back through and torque it. At the end, we're basically just going to take the cap out so we can get to it. But for now, we're going to do one of those just to get it on. There we go. Get a little brake clean going on. There's a film on your brakes that you want to get off from the machining process. These are kind of clean actually, but some of these are coated. So I always clean them up with brake clean first. Alright, we already did our little touch the sides so you don't contaminate. That hole is all different from the rest. That's the one that holds the brake caliper on, or rotor on. And then we're going to use our sensitive little screw here to help us. 230. Let's see if I got it. I did. Don't go crazy. You're gonna regret it later. So, where's those brake? Oh, we don't have brake pads yet. So we're probably gonna move on and get the rest of this together because the brake pads are on its way. We ordered Brembos and they don't have them at the local store, so I'm waiting for them to show up. But I'm gonna end up putting the rest of this together minus the brake pad because we have to wait. But either way, I can do this. I can throw the caliper bracket on. What I'm doing is cleaning all the dust and brake dust out of here. These things have a piston, and this is actually what guides your caliper back and forth when it compresses like that. The pins, I don't have the caliper kit either yet, but basically you want to pull these out. These are actually pretty lubed up with grease still, so I'm not going to really do anything with these. The other side I would expect is dry. One thing about these pins, you don't want to go crazy on the grease anyway. There's a rubber gasket here, and if you put too much grease on it, it'll expand, and then you won't be able to get them back in these guides. And there's one on that one, but there's not on that one. So make sure you don't mess up your guide pins. But at least that one's clean. We can bolt this thing back up with those two caliper bolts that we already cleaned off. You're probably not gonna be able to see it, but it goes behind over here. And since I haven't tightened anything yet, what I'm going to do is actually take out my tie rod arm and use my gun to tighten these things down so I don't have to mess around. These are probably 90 pounds, but look up your stuff. So caliper rack is on. We can't put the caliper on, which is long enough to just lay on the ground, which is kind of nice. Can't put that on until we get calipers later on today. Sucks that we don't have those pads. Oh no. It's throwing me off. Alright, there. Look at that. That looks like it fits. $10 mil. Drop it. Go find your 10 mil that you probably lost. I'm using a long 1/4 inch 10 mil because I can go behind that hose like that. 2-finger tight. And this thing should just rest right here somewhere. But if you're really, like I'm being right now, you can just wait until that's come, put a bolt in it, and then you don't have to worry about it dropping or needing bungees or any of that. Just put your little guide pins back in, so that way you can line up the rest of your work. So remember what I said, this tie rod arm needs to go back here in this hold, so I'm going to turn it this way and have George jack up the bottom. Go ahead. You can put a little jack down here to compress the shock. Go ahead.
More?
Yeah, oh yeah. Keep going. I'll tell you when to stop. Keep going. And that's just moving the shock up instead of the whole car. Keep going. I shouldn't have to do this on the other side. Keep going. There you go. Leave it right there. You want to tighten this down so that way you don't have a bunch of tension on it either. I'm going to say it's an 18 without spinning. Yep. Alright. Go ahead and release slowly. Now that's in there, and this won't even really go down too much farther just because where it's at. Now we can put our tie rod arm back together. Highly suggest you put this in last so that way you can move everything around like you just saw. Here's your speed sensor. This guy goes in like that. Push through. Usually you just push them through. This one's like, it's got a flat side on it, so you gotta twist it. That's stupid. There's a flat side right here. It's facing that way. So if you go in here like this and go straight, it won't work. But if you twist the whole thing, it pops in like that. So, like again, if you go in straight like you're used to, it won't work. But if you twist it sideways towards you, it pops right in. And then it stays in. Sometimes you can get it by hand, other times just use a little hammer or something. That'll lock that in. This guy goes here. This little grommet. Like that. This one goes to your shock. That goes in the back, like that. Connector goes to the shock. Make sure that's in there. And then one of these goes to the brakes, and one of these goes to the speed sensor. That's obviously the speed sensor, so that's going to go under the brake line, and then this one is probably going to do the same, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So the brake line sensor goes under the actual brake line and locks in there like that, and then this one goes square-wise sideways like that. And then when you get your new brake pad, remember, put the brake pad with a sensor on your passenger side, but that's what that clips into. Like I said, I put the bolts on the sensor because there's like no room, and I'm just gonna line it up eyesight. I like to take this guy and use it like a screwdriver if I don't have a lot of room, just to get them to tighten down. So this is all literally by touch and feel. I think I got it in there though. Yep. And then again, two finger tight. Boop. So that's pretty much suspension wise, that's it. Like when I get it on the ground, I'm gonna do a few things. I'm gonna tighten this off camera because again, I'm not responsible for you torquing things down correctly. But I'm gonna tighten this bottom one, and I'm gonna tighten the axle when I put the wheels on it, and then when it's on the ground, I'm gonna tighten these 3 nuts, and that's it. You're done after that point. I did this, so you might too, but don't forget to put your level sensor, your ride height sensor back on. It literally just pops back in. It's probably gonna be much easier, I would hope, to put on than it was to take off. Jeez. Haha.
Got it.
Just like that. Push down on the top. Hold it a 21 or was it a 22? It was 21.
How many nugget charges to foot-pounds was that?
How many Ugga Duggas was that?
Yeah.
That was like 4. So, losing my torque arm. Alright, we finally got our brake pads in. These special joints though, look at that. That's like a work of art right there. These are probably the nicest pads I've used in a long time. So, but like I was saying, we got to make sure we put this one. This is the only one in the box. It's the special one on this side because that's the wear sensor. If you break this line right here, putting this in, you're buying yourself a new set of brake pads or dealing with the fact that your car is going to yell at you for 40,000 miles. These are semi-metallic. In my opinion, it's a little better for performance over the ceramics. The ceramics are quieter. These are going to have a little bit more brake dust, but like I said, he likes to go to the mountains. So we're out here for go, not show. And I'll shove an old brake pad in there like that. And then I'll stab this guy. Oh, this is not going to do it. Let me see what I'm going to end up having to do for this guy, because there's no hole here for me. What I'll end up having to do for this guy, I got like a ratcheting style brake caliper tool that would have been nice to have, which I do not have right now. So what I'm going to end up doing is opening up this bleed valve so that way I can push it by hand. I'm just taking that nipple off. This is just like bleeding brakes, basically. What I want to do is relieve the pressure because I don't have every tool in the world. So I'm going to end up using this piece of cut hose that I use when I'm bleeding brakes. Just put it over the nipple like that. I'm going to have George step on the brake pedal so that way we don't lose or we don't put any air back in the system. I'm going to put this in the water bottle or bucket or whatever. That looks like a good spot for it. Alright, so that's cracked. And then I'm going to see if I can just use an old brake pad to push this thing in. That's moving. Maybe I'll open her up just a little bit more. Are you losing brake pedal feel? To the floor, you mean? To the wall? Alright, little John. Ooh. Alright, well that worked. Alright, and then before your buddy or you take a block of wood or whatever off your brake pedal, make sure you close it. And then all we should have to do is top off your reservoir. Again, be careful with this clip. It kind of just hangs out back here and it snaps right in, just like that. And if you have it sitting in there like that the right way, when you put your caliper back on, it shouldn't snag it as long as your caliper's pressed all the way out. So again, I didn't even need a new tool. I just took the bleeder valve off and pushed it in with a wrench. So, oh wait, it came with new screws. That's how you know you get a good company, when they come with pre-Loctited new screws. And they're not just Torx, they got heads on the outside. Heck yeah. Now these get to go in the bolt band for when I need them next time. Sorry, I have way too many bolts, but whatever.
You never have too many.
That's the spirit. Let's see if I can get these guys to tighten without a wrench. Nope. Alright, 17 mil is what I think we finally decided this thing was. Get it in there like that, just to stop it. That's all it is. They make smaller wrenches too, skinny wrenches for this kind of stuff, but whatever. As you can tell, I don't really buy everything. But now we got new pads. We're gonna break these pads in off camera too, because we're gonna have to get these nice and hot. All this is probably gonna be bare metal. It's kind of how you know if you've broken in your pads correctly, is if from here, this surface to hit this surface is bare metal. There's no streaks, etc. You kind of have to do it slowly with these guys. You warm them up, let them cool down, etc. But now you got good brakes in the front. So between that and the front suspension being done, it's probably going to feel like a completely different car. What we're really going to be doing is taking off this bolt, which is an 18. 3/8 to 18, we'll take care of that, and an 18 wrench. This is also an 18. This is for your shock. Remember that plug that I told you to be wary about? This is for the lower control arm right here. That's an 18 also. The nuts on the other side. And this is for the sway bar and link. Same thing as in the front. If you take this out, it allows the lower control arm to go up and down. So we're going to take this guy off first. Well, we're going to take all the nuts off, and then we'll probably start putting a jack under some stuff. M12. Alright, for now we're just going to take all the bolts out. 18 here. Sometimes you need to have a wrench on the other side. You will for a reassembly. Yeah. Oh, okay. So this is a captured nut on the left side. So before this pops, you got a nut going this way. Make sure you take it out on that side so this doesn't pop, because it's about to release. You want to put a jack under this end right here, and then it'll relieve the pressure so it doesn't. There we go. So that guy's getting loose. You can actually see, if you look at this bolt closely, you can see where this section and this bolt are about to touch. And if it does, you won't have it loose like that. So you want to kind of get it where it's in the middle, just like that. So that way when you're popping it out, you're not screwing threads up, you know? So that's the one for the shock. That wasn't that bad. So what happened was the bolt was this way, which is why I jacked it up from this side, so that way it straightened itself out. You're gonna have to deal with that when you put it back in, actually. This is the only bolt that doesn't go in straight. See that? It's straight now, so in theory it should just come right out. Now that all this is out of the way, it's pretty self-explanatory. You just push down. Did you see that or not? I should have just had you do it, Georgie. Alright, so there's this grommet here. It only goes in one way, and it locks into the top of the spring. Like that. Push down. After you've removed your level sensor arm, you can push down on the control arm. This is the driver's side. This is the only side that has one. I did not have that on that other side. I didn't even see it. So bushings on the top, and then on the bottom here, there's another one. And inside the pocket, you push the spring in. Pocket, and then it just sits in there like that. So if you're doing this on the ground like I am, all you really need to do now is start jacking your stuff up, and then everything will line itself back up again. So we're gonna go in the middle first, because we're trying to get the sway bar end link to line up. And that's also going to push the shock into its hole, so you just kind of like need to pay attention to both. I believe the shock goes first. If you look right in the middle line was probably going to be the first one we can get. So that's that one. Alright. They go back pretty good, easy. You don't need to bang them together. And then this back one here is next. So then with this guy, this is the only one that gave us problems going in and out. But it's mainly just because this has some twist angle to it. So I'll push it in like that. That looks pretty good on that side, but don't let it fool you. On the other end, it is a little bit different. But we can at least start on this side. Putting it back together, I didn't need a 13mm wrench. I just used my hand on the other end. Gotta love M12. So I got my 18. I'm on the back side of the bolt, obviously. And then same thing, but opposite on this side. Hold the nut, or tighten the nut, not the bolt. And this one was 15 minutes per side, and it's 3 tools. So just don't forget about your sensor. Do that first, actually. Make sure you get that out of the way, so that way you don't end up like me, having to deal with a piece of plastic getting in the way every evening. But I'm about to go break these wheels in, these rotors in.
It's 8 chuggas. Oh, hit me right in my nuts. Dude.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sack tapped the shit out of me.
Like I said, I always like to tighten these last bolts when it's on the ground. You see how far it's pushing that? That relieves all the tension on these things. And I just basically torque them down when it's on the ground. So helps to make sure that the shocks are seated, etc. But I don't like to do that until I'm finished. So just don't forget this part if this is the way you do it too. Remember, this isn't a how-to, it's a how I do. So that was the end of that one. It was pretty simple. Yes, it's a day job. It probably would have taken me 4 hours to do it if I wasn't recording. So, but that's the Golf R. So thanks for watching one of our first.